Okay, hello everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. This is the first of a series of hopefully awesome events all about career growth here at GitLab. So a little bit of background. So I'm Pilar Mejia. I lead the Gente TMRG, and something that's come up in conversations time and time again has been career mobility. What is it? How do we achieve it? How do we get started? What are the challenges? How can we overcome them? So we thought for fiscal 25, we would basically go on a scavenger hunt, ask around the virtual building, look under some rocks, shake some trees, and try to bring together some of the amazing resources that we have in a career growth calendar. So 1A, you're going to see the link to that calendar. Feel free to check it out. And this is a work in progress, so we are open for suggestions. Part of doing this as well, we thought, hey, this is a great opportunity for us to collaborate with our fellow TMRGs, raise awareness around them. So shout out to the API TMRG. It's API Heritage Month in May here in the US. So you can check out their handbook page. And we do have a little event that I'm gonna plug at the very end of our session. But again, if you have any suggestions, ideas, if you have a career growth story you'd like to share, go ahead and pop into our issue. We are here for it. The intention is just to make this the easy button for folks that are trying to figure out where to start and how to navigate all the amazing resources we have here at GitLab. So with all that being said, today we're talking to Eduardo about his career path because he has some really cool nuggets. So Eduardo, do us a favor, introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. Good morning, afternoon, good evening. My name is Eduardo, or Eddie Guillen, if that's easier. I want to start. I want to make this as interactive as possible. I do have a couple things that I want to share about myself, my upbringing, and my career path at GitLab, because it is a question that I hear very commonly from the SDRs and BDRs that join GitLab. They hear, "Hey, how did this idiot, this guy, became a BDR to CSM? That's never been done before. What did he do? What's so special that he did?" So I'll share a little bit about that. And hopefully that applies to not only the BDRs that join, but also really just anybody here who's looking to either get a promotion or thinking about changing their careers. I want this to be a safe space. So if you do have any questions, feel free to speak up. And hopefully we'll get more than one person to share their story. As I mentioned earlier, I'm glad Matthew McFarland is here, because we and I were both BDRs in the same team, and Matthew has an interesting story as well. So I'll share a little bit about myself. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a whole, oh, BDR. Yes, business development representative. So these are the people at GitLab that are cold calling, that are sending emails, trying to set up meetings with prospects or new customers. So thank you for that.
Yeah, good
But
question, Juliana. And good call out on the interactive. Sorry to interrupt, but I forgot to say we're also going to be throwing some polls at you. They're completely anonymous. They're just for fun. So keep an eye on that as well. I'm going to go ahead and launch the first one right now.
perfect. Do you want to read it, Pilar?
Yes. When you think about your career path, how do you feel? And so we've got 4 options here: anxious, indifferent, excited and eager, overwhelmed. So feel free to go ahead and fill that out, and I'll share once we have 100% participation.
Well, that poll is working. I'll introduce myself really quickly. So again, Eddie, I'm a customer success manager. So if you're not familiar with the role, essentially I have a customer facing role where I work with customers that are enterprise, and I work with them to adopt more into GitLab, find any roadblocks for adoption, feature requests. Really, I'm just a point of contact to help our customers be happy with the product and the platform, and also make connections, and also make them a long-standing customer. So that's my role here. So I'll tell you a little bit about my career path. I was a BDR at GitLab in 2021. I was actually came from an account management role. I had a little bit of sales experience, but I really believed in GitLab, that I was willing to kind of go back to be a BDR, because I need a long-term my career progression would progress from there. So after about a year of being a BDR, I became a customer success manager, which I'm very proud of. It was a very good switch. It was a very good transition as well. Totally different role. and it's something that I do get asked a lot of questions about. So, Pilar, sorry, did we find the result for the poll, or we're still waiting on that?
Boom. There you go. So 47% of folks on this call are excited and eager to look for assistance. We've got just under 30% feeling anxious, 6% indifferent. I like that you're curious and you're here, and 18% overwhelmed. So that probably most aligns with how I feel when I try to figure out what's next. So thank you everyone for taking the poll.
Eduardo, do you mind sharing with us, like, in a nutshell, what does a BDR do and what does a CSM does, so that we know the difference?
Sure. So high overview BDR, these are people or individuals that are trying to find prospects, trying to set up meetings with our salespeople, basically new logos, if you will. So it's very, it's a tough job. I really respect BDRs, or business development representatives, because you're essentially getting rejected constantly. I can't think of another role in my lifetime or my career that's just really builds character, because you're constantly making 50, maybe 60 calls a day. And people hang up on you, people curse you out, emails get ignored. And after a while, it really starts to kind of get at you, because it's hard. Rejection is hard, but it's one of those things that I'm very thankful that it gave me that kind of this tenacity to kind of overcome objections, and really get a little bit thicker in my skin, because it's constantly a battle to get new logos, and everybody's so overwhelmed that they've got different things going on, and the last thing you want is some guy from GitLab or from some company cold calling you and saying, "Hey, I'd like to tell you more about our product. Like, tell me about your." So that's what a BDR is. Customer success manager, high overview. I'm a point of contact. I work very closely with the account executives at GitLab. I work to facilitate adoption, finding roadblocks and removing them for our customers. Really, just as the name implies, it's customer success. So I'm only successful if my customers or our customers are successful. So does that answer your question, Gabby? Does that provide a better picture?
I did want to quickly call out to, when I think of the two roles, BDR to me aligns with sales, right? It's like a sales hat wearing sales position. When I think of CSM, I think technical prowess. So that's what pops to mind for me anyway, between those two roles. So a really interesting transition.
Is one more technical, or I saw the second one more of a project management? It's interesting you bring that up. I never thought of it as a technical. I thought more of it as finding the roadblocks with the SA and managing the opportunity and the roadblocks. I'm not sure if that confuses things or not.
It's a fair question. The answer is yes. I think in the past year or two, we're starting to have more of a lean to customer success managers being more technical. We do work very closely with solutions architects, but the idea is that architects are pre-sales. So this is before the actual sales is done. Yes, thank you. Sherry just shared something. And then customer success managers are post-sales. So I personally, I try to respect the solutions architect's time as much as possible. Every now and then we'd actually might have a mutual ask or a way that we can help each other out. But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. The role is technical. So that's one of the questions that we have on the list is, how do we go from a non-technical role being a BDR, and then how do you go into a technical role? I'm not sure if that resonates with anybody, but I'm happy to go into that if we'd like to.
Yeah, that's great. I think before we get into that, do you want to tell us maybe a little bit about how you came to be at GitLab, how you got into technology, and then yes, would love to hear about that transition from BDR to CSM.
Sure. So how do I got into GitLab? My first job out of college was a BDR, actually. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was in 2017 when I graduated with my bachelor's. It was in tech, honestly, blind luck or blind just, I saw an internship. There was a list of internship. There was this local small company of about 40 employees that needed a BDR. I thought the pay was fair. And I just kind of landed in sales and in tech, and I'm so thankful for it. It's just one of those things. I think it's very common. If you ever run into salespeople, it's like, how did you get into sales? Because most people don't think, oh, I can't wait to be a salesperson. It's just one of those things that just happened, and I haven't looked back since. So how did I get into GitLab? Really, it took a while. It took me a year to get my foot in the door in the GitLab. I used the product in a coding bootcamp, and I loved GitLab. The platform is amazing. So I was like, how do I get in this? I want to get into this company. And then I looked into the reviews and how the values were so important. Long story short, after a year of about applying, I was like, I might have to take a career step down because I was already an account manager. I was doing good. But I just wanted more in my life. I wanted something more in my job. Previously, my old company, it was plateaued. There was really nothing more to do there. So I wouldn't recommend that, but it worked out for me. I believed in myself. And I'll share a little bit about my kind of childhood upbringing and how that kind of helps me play a role in my motivation. Um, I guess I can share that now, if that's okay. So I'll share something really personal with y'all, and it used to really be very, very difficult to talk about because there was a bit of shame, it was a bit of embarrassment, but now it's something that I'm owning, and I'm actually taking it as part of my story because it has helped other people, as weird as that is. I got held back in third grade, and it was the most traumatizing thing ever. Um, my parents are both immigrants. I'm a son of immigrants. They're both from Mexico. Their highest education was middle school. They moved to America hoping to live the American dream, and it worked out amazing, but they had no educational background. And so third grade was when we moved from basically there's parts of San Antonio that are so just Spanish speaking only. So we moved from a Spanish speaking school to pretty much the suburbs. Didn't speak English. Even though I was born and raised in San Antonio or in the US, I didn't speak English. It just was not something that occurred. It never was taught. So at third grade, very young, I was like, they basically failed me because I just did not speak enough English. So that was really traumatizing. And then a few years later after that, I guess because of resentment, because of bullying or whatever you want to call it, I actually got held back again in sixth grade, which is like so unheard of, incredibly unheard of. So I felt not only was the sixth grade just so, it was just pure, it was mostly behavior. I had a lot of issues with bad kids that were bringing knives to school, fights, graffiti. I mean, you name it. I was just a terrible kid. But after that second year of me trying of retrying sixth grade, I turned my life around because it's like I got tired of teachers telling me you're a loser. My own parents were like, well, there's nothing we could do for this kid. He's a good kid, but education was just basically out of the question at that point. And statistically speaking, it's like once you get held back, it's like your life is pretty much over, let alone getting held back twice. 2 years. It's incredibly embarrassing, shameful. My parents were as kind as they could be, but they didn't have education background, so they couldn't help me. So I share this to be vulnerable because it took me something to really white knuckle and really just say I'm not a loser. I'm not gonna give into these thoughts of having a learning disability or this kid's done. Long story short, there's a happy ending. I got like basically student of the year the next year. Teachers were crying. My own family was crying. I got my bachelor's, first generation, so amazing. And then as of actually just Sunday, a few days ago, I passed with my master's, my MBA from Johns Hopkins, which was like my dream school. So not bad for a dumb kid who they told me that I would never, didn't do this, and my own teachers doing that. I don't know if that story resonates. It's something I'm telling you, even a year or 2 years ago, I would never share. But I'm sharing that because no matter what your past is, no matter what failures you have, it does not define you. You don't have to listen to people when they tell you you're not good enough, or even our own self-talk, right? I tell myself all the time, I'm still not good enough. I'm not, imposter syndrome, if you will. But then I remember it's like my past does not define me. I define my future. I can take control of my life. So if you are at a point where I hear it all the time, people that are like, I want to do XYZ, but I'm not good enough. I'm not XYZ enough. I'm not technical enough. I would challenge you and say, maybe that's true. Maybe today you don't have the technical acumen, but you can definitely get there. Maybe if you're interested, if you're a software engineer and you want to get into finance, I don't have a background in finance. You can find ways to really get there. And I'll touch a little bit more on that tactical stuff. So hopefully today you'll have a step-by-step program, or what I share, what I did. You'll have a step-by-step tactical way, I should say, not a program, not selling anything, but a step-by-step tactical plan of your career. You're here for a reason. You're obviously thinking about a promotion. You're thinking about maybe changing into a whole different field. I'm here for it, and I'll share exactly what I did. So sorry, that was a long-winded answer. So
No, that was amazing. And I would be remiss to not say thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that, because I'm sure you're not the only one with that type of story. You can see the chat, everyone's really grateful and supportive. So thank you everyone for listening and appreciating. These are the stories that really impact us and help us realize that we can do more than maybe what our self-talk tells us we can do. So that being said, we would love to hear exactly how you went from BDR to CSM here at GitLab.
yeah, absolutely. Matthew, I'm going to pick on you after my answer here, but here's what I did, and hopefully you'll take this if you want to become a promotion in the same position you are, maybe from intermediate to senior to staff or whatever, or if you're looking to change career change. So step one, really look into that role, have coffee chats with people that are doing the role that you want to do. So I did about 20, and that's just ridiculous, but I really wanted to build connections, really wanted them to be aware of my name, because I just wanted to learn about the role, right? So that's like step one, is learn more about the role. Even if you're not even sure, you're like, do I really want to go to finance or become an engineer or whatever? Just have coffee chats anyways. Ask them about what their day-to-day looks like, and have an honest assessment if that's something that you really want, or that's something that you think you just kind of want. Because if it's something that you kind of want, then you're probably not, I don't know. Best of luck on that. I think life is too short to be doing something that you kind of don't want to do. So that's step one. Step two is start doing research, or start trying to find maybe recordings or notes that this role does, so you can get more inside look there. So it's kind of similar to step one. Step three is start doing research, start actually investing in yourself, and actually, in my particular case, I was not that technical. So I was actually starting to research topics, find topics that I think would be helpful to know, good to know, right? So step three, invest yourself, find start reading and actually looking at YouTube videos. LinkedIn has a lot of good material, by the way. If you don't have LinkedIn, that I think is it premium? I think we all have access to those learning courses. Amazing stuff, incredible stuff, some technical stuff, some non-technical stuff. Step four is I actually approached a manager, or I think in my case, I approached 3 managers. And here's the most important part. This is where you talk to your manager, or the company or the group that you want to talk to. You're going to want to ask them, say, hey, candidly, I know I'm not an ideal candidate. I know I'm not the candidate that you think of. I don't have the experience. I don't have the XYZ. But looking 6 months or a year from now, what would it take? Here's my plan. Do you agree? Do you see anything that I should add? Here's what I've been doing so far. I've already had a couple of coffee chats with some other colleagues. I believe I would be a good fit. I'm just missing, these are the gaps that I'm seeing. Do you see any other gaps? Apply that to your promotion. If you're thinking about a promotion 6 months ahead of time, or whatever time makes sense, set up a coffee chat or a chat with your manager and say, hey, manager, I want to set a conversation separate from our one-on-one to talk about my career. This is the plan that I have. I want to make sure that I'm filling all the gaps. What would it take for me to be an intermediate to now senior CSM, or whatever role that you want? Though your managers will love that, by the way, because they're like, we see that this person's being proactive. And then have a monthly check-in. Show them that you are being held accountable and that you're going towards that. And when it comes time to ask for that promotion, there's no surprises. 6 months from now or a year from now, you've pretty much laid out all their objections. You've got all the gaps done. It's almost like, why wouldn't they promote you at that point? You've been working together closely, month over month, and you've shown results for that. So, going back to how it became a BDR to a CSM. So step 1, coffee chats. Step 2 is finding videos and learning modules. Step 3, investing in yourself. Step 4 is approach a manager. Step 5 is really, I think it's unique to GitLab. They set up an internship with me. So they saw my work. They saw that I'm willing to go towards that path. They set up a 6-month internship, and I think it was a bi-weekly meeting that I would have for coaching and guidance. And then finally, step 6 is I applied, right? Just because you've done all this work doesn't mean you're guaranteed the role. I applied, I interviewed like everyone else, and I got the job. So hopefully those were tactical steps that you can apply yourself. But Matthew, can I chime you in here? You have a story to tell as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of good points. I transitioned from a BDR role to a product manager role, and I think one of the biggest things is just patience is a virtue. Oftentimes, when people find what they want to do for their career, they want it now. And the reality is it takes time. So think about like what you want to do in 10, 20 years. And when you reflect on, oh, I really want to be a CSM for my career, then you're willing to wait a couple of years or a year to get there. And that really helps to like at least do your day-to-day job if you're not like super engaged in it, but you know like you're driving towards a path that you want to be in. And then yeah, just find something you're passionate about. I think Eduardo is really passionate about being a CSM and he chased that path. And if you're really passionate about something, then go for it. And also just recognizing that no one was born a PM or an engineer or a CSM. Everyone had to learn at some point. So like, why can't you learn?
I love that. Those are great points. Thank you so much, Matthew, for chiming in and sharing some of your story as well. Next question for you, Eduardo. Coming from a non-technical background, was imposter syndrome a factor? You talked a little bit about self-talk at the beginning. Talk us through how you kind of changed that self-talk and really felt empowered to go for it.
Absolutely. Answer is yes, and it's constant still to this day. Imposter syndrome is one of those things that I'm going to give you advice, or I'm just kind of my perspective, right? You can take it with a grain of salt. Just coming from my background, I think the more motivations, or if you picture yourself as like a chariot and the horses, the more horses you can get in front of that chariot to go, the better, because you need to find something that's bigger than your imposter syndrome. What I mean by that analogy is that there's a lot of people that say, oh, motivation's everything. That's one horse you can add. It can definitely get you there. Discipline, that's another horse that you can add to the chariot. That'll get you even further and more faster. Another thing too is this is going to sound odd, is sometimes pettiness. It's weird. But when I was like stuck in that hole of like kids making fun of me, and even in my career, it's like, how can I really like, success is the best revenge, right? It's like, how can I really push myself through that? And so maybe pettiness is not the right word, but it's like, I just wanted to prove them wrong. I wanted to prove my friends, my family, like I still kind of apply that today because I've got this like this chip on my shoulder of like, I have to do better. I have to be perfect. I have to do better. Yeah, thank you, Sean. The spiteful pettiness will drive you to excel. Yeah. Fine. Maybe it's your family member. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's just you want a bigger house. Maybe it's your dog. Find reasons and find them in not only in quantity but quality that have to be bigger than imposter syndrome. We all have it. Sean, you have coached me so much on through this because GitLab in particular is such a intimidating technical platform. And I'm sure even Matthew and Romer and Sean and Ricard, everyone here, you're like, I work in this day to day and I still sometimes feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. Long story short, find something bigger than the imposter syndrome. It's going to be there. Acknowledge it. You don't have to pretend that it's not there, but you have to find reasons for something bigger than that. And find your reasons and don't just pick one, because sometimes one is not enough. You have to find a couple different things to really get you through it. Sean, can I chime you in here? You are very good at coaching others through that. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I would say exactly what you said about having the horses out in front of you. I what I would say is remember that you have a whole company here, as in like you have product specialists, you have sales specialists, you have coaching specialists. Um, I'm trying to think, Marina Brownray, she's been very helpful just listening to her on calls about, hey, there's this resource, there's this. And what I mean by that is reach out to that person. So I remember Ed and I had a chat and I was like, this guy's awesome. Like my first chat with him. And he said, I want to be a CSM. Back then it was a TAM. And I said, then get it and I'll help you. And he did, right? And what I mean by that is like for me, the technicality is very daunting. But I went to a boot camp before I came here, like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, right? Not everybody gets that. So ask for help. And then also we have that learning bonus, the one that we have, I think it's like 10,000, but you can use that towards any kind of technical boot camp or coaching. So that's one thing that I've used it for is any kind of like DevOps learning and also an executive coaching. Because like Eduardo was talking about, I had to slow down. I had to gain more confidence. That took somebody else looking at my calls and the way I spoke and said, "Hey, why don't you do this? I suggest you slow down here." When you hear that from maybe a spouse or a teammate, it can feel kind of like an attack. It's because they're so close to you. So that's what I would suggest: is make sure you use those people around you and help them because you can mentor them and they can help mentor you back.
And
That's
then oh, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, such a great call out. Thank you, Sean, on the Growth and Development Fund. We'll make sure that we link it in the notes doc. And in addition to that, Modern Health, I believe, offers coaching sessions as well, because I know I looked into that a while back. So yes, well, you're not alone. We have the resources.
That is
And
one
then
thing I'll say one more. The
Go ahead.
meditation on the health app. Essentially, it walks you through that, and that was what I had to learn over the last like 2 to 3 years. Was anytime that you're stressed about work, just take 5 minutes and just breathe and walk away. And usually, when I come back, the answer was just message Pilar. She'll help you. You're stuck in a moment, right, where you're not really sure what to do, and that imposter syndrome says, "Don't do anything." So just stop and take a breath for 5 minutes. That's usually helpful.
That's great. Thank you. And Eduardo, did you have anything else you wanted to say on that?
No, I was just gonna say, I think if we want to just experiment, just by show of hands, you can use the reactions, raise hand. Let me know if you ever face imposter syndrome, maybe at least once a month, because I certainly do, like almost every day. Exactly. So if you see all the hands that are up, you're not the only one. Everybody feels it. And I bet you the solutions architects and the SRE, I don't remember who's an SRE here. Nick, I'm sure you probably feel it too. And you have a lot of stress, Nick. I don't envy your job because it's like you have to keep everything going. And so it's incredible. So we all face it.
That's a great call out. I'm going to launch another poll real quick. And this one, I probably should have done this earlier, but what does career growth mean to you? So while you all are filling this out, I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question here, which is, outside of work, what are some things you do that help support your career growth?
So outside of work, I'm going to tell y'all to do certifications, but then also I'm going to encourage everybody here to think about higher education. If you have a bachelor's, maybe consider getting your master's. If you don't have a bachelor's, maybe consider getting bachelor's. I don't know. I won't say it's going to make your career magical. It's not, but I will say recruiting, and unfortunately the reality is that when it comes to recruiting with GitLab or outside of GitLab, wherever your life goes, and you all know this, it's a lot of check boxes. Now our resume used to be judged by people and eyes physically looking at a resume. Now it's being judged by an AI and algorithms. So it's like a cursing and a blessing at the same time, because as a recruiter, you're able to find a lot more people and you can kind of go find some people much quicker, right? But then also it's one of those things that having higher education, especially from a really recognizable school, that helps because that not only is that a checkbox, but it also kind of builds your brand. If I were to drop, let's just say, Adrian, if I drop you into a country that you've never been to, and there's like 100 different types of sodas and drinks, but you see Coca-Cola, you can even resemble, like, I know that's Coca-Cola, I'll have that. That's usually what people feel safe with. And so your recruiters out there, they're like, I don't know who Adrian is, but I can see this person has this certification. I can see they worked at GitLab. I can see that they have this higher ed, degree, whatever. Those are all things and little check boxes that you can add to your CV, and it makes it a little bit easier. Am I speaking gibberish? Am I the only one who's observing this in the world, that everything is now recruiters are just pure AI, and it's scary, and it's also like, I get it, but also like, how can you really judge a person with just a name and a CV? Can you really? They're trying to. Sean, go ahead, or Adrian.
Well, I think that's the thing. You have to make people feel you. You have to make a presentation, right? You have to be forceful with your delivery, which I think is to what you're talking about as your career growth. Just to gush about you a little bit, the first time I talked to you to now, I've seen you grow so much, as in like you're very articulate about specific things that you weren't before, as in like, what does a CI job do, right? YAML file. Before you were very articulate about sales things. And so what I think is what's really interesting to see that growth from you. It's really interesting to be able to see like, this is exactly how I should support someone in GitLab, right? And use you as a guideline of what they should do. It's really cool.
Yeah, and Eddie, the only thing I was going to add is, I've done I hire for pretty technical roles. I look for folks with specific skills in like analytics. And so anytime I've looked at resumes, like as long as the skills that I know that this person may need in their day to day that I'm going to be able to grow and work with are listed and highlighted, that's kind of what calls, because to your point, there are some programs that maybe can filter out folks, but I don't know of any of them that are good, like in recruiting. When you're looking at resumes, so I have to look at every resume, and I only have so much to look at, so much time. I look at them quickly, I look for those skills and I set them aside, and then I'll go review a little more detailed. So those are kind of like signals to what you're saying, I guess, of what would be a good indicator for a hiring manager, not even just a recruiter, but a hiring manager, as to like, will this person bring value in the way I need it? So it helps a lot. The certifications and all that are something in addition to it, but the skills themselves, if somebody doesn't have a degree, but they have the skills and they have experience working with the things I need, I don't care about that either, right? I care about the skills for the most part, but they're all signals. So
Yeah, thank you for that, Adrian. Oh, Pilar, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. And thank you for those details, Adrian. Super helpful from someone that's in it every day. So that is awesome feedback. And I'm sharing the poll results, which it looks like 56% of the folks what career growth means for them currently is getting promoted to a more senior individual contributor role, IC role. 13% promoted to manager, 31% moving to a different team at GitLab. So you're in the right place. Awesome. Okay. That being said, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate, Eduardo. Do you have any tips for balancing it all? You've got work. You just wrapped up your MBA, so you have some multitasking. Obviously, career progression takes time, and I believe you have family responsibilities as well. How do you juggle it all?
Yeah, true. So yes to all the above. And then I'm also add the caveat that I'm Hispanic, and Hispanic family members are like, they constantly want to hang out with you. So constantly, there's always a quinceañera, there's always a barbecue, there's always your neighbor's cats, had a baby, so now we throw a party for that. Constant. So I'll give you some tactical advice. Again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I wish I had a quinceañera. They're amazing. I just went to one like 2 weeks ago. You're not gonna like my answer. But I brought my laptop everywhere. It's just the reality. Like I had family barbecues and birthdays and all that. And as I'm just so thankful that my wife you can have a double queen size. Yeah. I'm just thankful for my wife, and I've got a little one. She's a year and a half. And through this entire, it took me 4 years to finish my MBA, right? And of course, there's career progression, which means you're opting in to do things kind of maybe outside of work because there's an additional amount of work that you're doing, but it's worth it, right? Just do your best. Have a mentality that, you know, good enough when it comes to like showing up to family events and having friends and having a social life. You're not going to be able to go out every week. At least in my case, I didn't. I wasn't able to go to every little thing that I wanted to. I didn't really have much of a hobby. I play video games every now and then. It's not all doom and gloom, right? It's not like your life is over. But I will just say, if you're thinking about getting your MBA, do it part-time and just find times in the weekend to really just hammer it out. I was able to do it, and I don't even know sometimes how I did it, but I think part of that was just because my wife was so supportive, and that's important, right? And if I wish I had better advice than just to say, bring your laptop somewhere. Like you're gonna have to, you have to meet your obligations, right? But if you're looking for higher ed and getting promoted and also be a parent and also be married and also be a householder, it's like you're gonna have to multitask. Sorry, that was a bad answer, but does anyone have any advice?
No, are you kidding me? That I think we're all very lucky that we work in a field where we can be a bit more flexible. I take advantage of the async workday like crazy because there are times where I need to step away during business hours. And I'll get back to it later, right? On the side where I can. I like your point about being okay with good enough, right? Have some grace, have some patience with yourself. We're juggling a lot. And then you also mentioned having a supportive partner. And support can come from a lot of different places, you know. If you don't have a support system, find one. There's lots available online. There's lots available here at GitLab. The TMRG is providing amazing spaces and amazing resources. The caregiver TMRG just did a great panel on, you know, how to juggle parenting, caregiving, and work, because these are demanding jobs as well. So have some grace. But yeah, anybody else have any other tips, feedback, comments?
To Eduardo's point, I ended up purchasing an iPad like 2 or 3 years ago. And of course I was like, I don't want to, but the answer is I have ADHD and autism. So I needed to do something that was easy for me. I needed to be able to use an iPad with a keyboard. So purchasing that, I think I just bit the bullet and spent the 1,500, and it's been the best 1,500 of my life because I take that everywhere, like Eduardo was saying. So a lot of times I would go someplace and not have what I was going to do. I just needed to drive, right? 20, 30 minutes, go to a coffee shop, and I'd spend 2 hours just researching topics that Eddie and I had talked about or something else, right? And that got me to start doing more, as in like I was doing work afterwards, but it was more like research. It was homework, right? What do Eddie and I want to do like in 6 months? And I think that really helped me disassociate because I wasn't taking the laptop. It was more like I would preload things to go do, right? So they were offline Google Docs that I could read. That really helped me with the downtime. So I didn't scroll on my phone. I didn't talk to a family member I didn't want to, right? It was more like I kind of just went around things, and it allowed me to work and do things that I wanted to. So some of them were O'Reilly book on tapes, right? Like we have access to O'Reilly through Okta. I would do a lot of those things. So it was a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about, but maybe I didn't know about. So before I talked to Carlos next week, I was like, I need to learn these topics, right? And again, there's books on tape. There's all these things on there. There's different modules that really helped me still work and do everything else and not take up time with my partner, because she was basically like, every time you're working, you're taking out of our account. And that kind of made me realize like, I need to be able to be efficient on the go.
I'm really curious, if you don't mind hearing from the audience, is anyone comfortable? I think the majority, or was it 50%, shared that they wanted their career progression, they wanted to switch to a different team or a different org or whatever that, whatever. I remember the answer. Is anyone willing to share like where they're at today and where they want to go? Because I'm very curious to hear about that.
And you can drop it in the chat if you're not up for verbalizing. I think we had 50% more senior IC and then about 30% or so.
Oh, okay, my bad. I must have misread the numbers. But yeah, for those who want to switch teams, is anyone comfortable sharing a little bit more?
All right. I know we're getting close on time, so I'm gonna keep things moving. Do you have any mentors or mentees that have been part
Absolutely.
of your development? I think you hinted at this a little bit, but would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely critical to have mentors. Sean, I'm lucky that Sean's just amazing mentor. Carlos, shout out to Carlos as well. Find mentors. Absolutely. They absolutely and have a regular cadence. Don't just you don't need to make it super formal or anything like that. Some people try to make it like it's like this whole, oh, let's have a once, it's, just schedule coffee chats. It doesn't have to be once a month. It can just be like reach out to them every now and then and keep it organic.
I love that. And yes, it doesn't have to be complicated. I know we have mentorship programs as part of GitLab, and we'll be sure to link those as well. But I thought something that was really unique about Eduardo when he raised his hand to say, hey, I've got a story I'd like to share, was how he organically has not just received mentorship, but become a mentor for others, just folks that are curious and want to follow that same path. So it can be a lot easier and more accessible than you might think. All right, the last question I had was, what's the best piece of advice you've received in regards to growing your career? And
It's
this
super
is open
simple.
to everyone, by the way. Feel free to drop it in the chat. We'll collect all the advices. We need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Super simple. Changed my life. It was from my own mother since I was little. If you don't ask, you don't get. And what she means by that is like politely make the ask, you know, because nobody can read your mind. Your manager's not going to read your mind. If you're looking to switch teams, they can't read your mind. So make the ask. What are the gaps? And how do I fix those gaps? Hey, I want to be a CSM. Like, what would it take? And make the ask. Feel comfortable asking, because the worst they can say is no. And if they say no, okay, then how do we, looking 6 months or a year from now, how do I get to that? Yes. I want to be a senior. The answer is no. Okay, what are the gaps to become a senior XYZ? Simple. If you don't ask, you don't get. That my mom changed my life with that. It's super simple, but it helps. Anyone else want to share?
I love that. I see Gabby in the chat says, market yourself, from our very own marketer. Yes, Gabby, that's a great tip. We need to be comfortable speaking to our merits and being able to put ourselves out there and sell ourselves, for lack of a better term, because otherwise.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to verbalize one that I think works a lot, is that don't be afraid to fail, persevere, is that even if you don't succeed at first, just keep on going, keep at it. And that usually yields good results.
That's a great call out. I myself am very guilty of being scared to fail. So I love that. Put yourself out there. From Terry, track the things you do. Thank yous received, your wins. Yes. Documentation is super helpful, especially here at GitLab. There is a promotion doc out there. It's one of the things we're going to dig into in a future session, but that's a great place to start collecting those types of accolades. So you don't forget, we're moving really fast. Very easy to forget these things. Thank you for that, Terry. Be patient, from Matthew. Have fun and don't take everything too seriously. That's definitely a great reminder. All right.
Simple, but the one that I always find is why. And it's different for every person, but a lot of times I'll just explain when I ask, like if Pilar asks me something like why, and I usually give you a couple seconds and then I'll follow up with, is it important to you? Should I care? Should I go? Because it gives you a little bit of leeway to be like, where does Pilar or Eduardo want to go? And then if you don't answer, then I can lead you, because usually you're trying to ask somebody for help, right? And I found that's the easiest way to ask for help, is just say like, why? Because I don't know if you want to help me, but I'm assuming you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Thank you for sharing, Sean. Okay, we are technically at time. Thank you everyone for hanging in here with us. Reminder, it's API Heritage Month. We would love for you to join us for a joint social this coming Friday. If you're part of the API TMRG Google group, it'll be on your calendar. If you're part of Gente, it'll be on your calendar. If you're not, join one of the Google groups. We would love to see you there. It's a space to make amazing connections, and you never know, could lead to a career conversation. So there's always that. Thank you, Eduardo, for sharing your story, for being so vulnerable. This was super impactful for me. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And we will see you around the virtual water cooler. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.